Hello and welcome to the Sportfish Spring Spectacular. I'm Simon Gawesworth and I'm going to talk to you about a few RIO products that you might find very interesting. And the ones I'd like to talk to you mostly about are the subsurface series of lake lines. They're designed for lake fishing, hence the name, lake. And obviously they're subsurface sinking type lines, not floating lines, not full sinking lines, but to be in that top 1 foot to 4 foot water column that is devastatingly effective when you're a lake angler. There's two families. There's the Elite family, and the Elite family is a fly line series that has a low stretch core, so it's the most sensitive fly lines. I love these lines when I'm trying to just fish underwater with sinking lines or intermediates because they're a little bit more sensitive, they're a bit quicker on the hook set, they're better for playing fish. So in the Elite family we have two lines in this subsurface series. We have the Camolux, which is an intermediate line, sinks about 1.5 inches a second, nice little stealthy camo color, and we also have a hover line, a slower sinking line, very, very good line on a windy day when you don't want to fish deep, but you want to be under the waves. Because when you've got waves, you don't want your floating line riding over the waves. You're just not in touch with the fish. So on windy days when you've got a good breeze blowing, but you still want to fish near the surface, absolutely get yourself a hover line. And if you want to be a little bit deeper, get yourself the Camolux Intermediate, and that will get you down. So in that Elite series, there's those two lines available. But in addition to the Elite series, we have our Premier series, built on a more stretchy core. And in that series, the subsurface series, we have our AquaLux, similar type of line to the Camolux. The AquaLux is an intermediate, but it's clear. It's got a clear front head. And sometimes you want that clear head. And the reason this isn't on the low stretch core is because the low stretch core is not clear. So people say, well, why don't you make this clear line on your low stretch core? Well, the low stretch core, if it's white, is going to create a white fly line. So if you want a clear line, you definitely want to make sure you get the regular AquaLux. That's good in clear lakes like here at Sportfish. You've got some beautiful clear lakes, and these clear intermediates make a big difference when you're getting down. So you can get those. And then really popular for nymph anglers and reservoir anglers with teams of nymphs or teams of buzzers are lines called Midge tips. And Midge tips are a line, it's a floating line with a very short front tip, just to pull under the surface to get a little bit deeper penetration of the nymphs and buzzers, to get under the waves, to get a little bit more control of those nymphs and buzzers. And there's a whole family of Midge tip lines. We've had the Midge tip out itself for a lot of years. I mean, gosh, I've been fishing this as a competition angler when I lived in the UK in the late 1990s. So the Midge tip has been out a very long time. And the original Midge tip was a 1 meter long clear intermediate tip. And sometimes you want to get a little bit deeper than that. This is the Midge tip long. The long is a 2 meter long clear tip. And here's the regular Midge tip. And new this year, I haven't got the boxes because it's not new, but new this year, there's the new hover Midge tip. And that has the same kind of thing I talked about with the other subsurface lines. In other words, it sinks about 1 inch a second. It's 2.5 centimeters if you're in a metric field. So much slower sink than the 1.5 inch a second intermediates. So again, when you want to fish lightweight flies in the surface film, but just subsurface and under there, and you don't want the leader floating, a floating line will give you a floating leader with very lightweight flies, like crunchers, something like that, and you want to be just subsurface, that's when you want to get the hover. And the hover is also available in this 1 meter tip, or the hover long in the 2 meter tip. So that's it. That is our lake series of lines, our subsurface lake series of lines that we make at RIO. If you're a lake angler, you probably should have all of them. You need them all, absolutely, because you may as well be covered for every fishing situation. So get down to Sportfish and get yourself a set of these RIO lake lines.